Alrighty, well, good morning, everyone. My name is Ryan Taylor. I'm a licensed clinical social worker, and I've been a LEN trainee at the Mine Institute over this past year, and I'm really excited to talk about some preliminary findings about the Family Navigator program usage. Here's the usual disclaimer. Nothing that I say or present or any sort of content associated with this presentation to be construed as being like the opinions or official stances of any of the organizations listed on the slide. Here's what I'll be going over with. I'll talk a little bit about the Family Navigator program, talk a little bit about my project, talk a little bit about the sample size, and then present some of the findings. So the Family Navigator program is a voluntary, no-cost peer coaching program that is sponsored by the Center for Excellence in Developmental Disabilities and the Autism Center for Excellence at the Mind Institute. It's a program in which families of newly diagnosed children with autism are referred to this program, and the program provides a peer coach who is in the majority of cases is a parent or family member who also has a child with autism who's helped to navigate the program, and they provide some peer coaching support, helping them to access resources and oftentimes maybe access some of the clinical recommendations that are in the program and in the diagnostic evaluation and the clinical recommendations after they're diagnosed. The program was started in 2018. Since this program started, there have been approximately 203 families referred, and about 140 have actually completed their time in the program. So again, my project was really the main purpose of my project was to help the program staff begin to have a better understanding about the program usage. We had a lot of families that had started and completed the Family Navigator program, but there wasn't a whole lot of information known yet about how long they were in the program, what the supports provided were, and other kind of specifics. And so that was kind of my task, was to help take some of this information that was in hard copy files and on handwritten notes, kind of transfer them to an electronic database, and then take a look at all the data and see what kind of preliminary findings we can have as far as conclusions goes and direction. The purpose, again, was to help to provide some program improvement and to help the Family Navigator leadership make some considerations for future planning. So next, a little bit about the sample size. My sample size in this project consists of 65 families who were referred to the Family Navigator program between September 2018 and October 2019, and all of whom who had finished their time in the Family Navigator program. The ages at referral of the families range from 1.5 years to 18 years, with the average age of the sample size being 6.5 years old. 25 of the 65 clients were reported on the referral forms as having autism only. All of the others were noted as having autism and at least one other diagnosis. The majority spoke English, and as you can see from the map on the right, the families came from all over Northern California and even one county in Nevada. So on the map, wherever there is a blue star, the blue star indicates a county in California or Nevada where there is at least one family that was in the sample. So now I wanted to move into some of the preliminary findings of what I found. For one of the first questions that was kind of asked to try to find out is, how long did families stay in the program? And what I found in the sample size was that families on average stayed in the program for about 5.5 or so months. The range came from like 5 days to 368 days. I also took a look at the breakdown between 4 to 6 months, which is when the manual and the program manual kind of recommends or thinks that this program should have for families in there for. So 4 to 6 months, about 20 clients. There's about 23 clients that were in the program for 6 months or more, and then there are 22 that were in the program 4 months or less. Also looked at how the services ended. So I found that 21 of the 65 families chose to end services in the their time in the Family Navigator program on their own, which means that they either identified to their peer coach that they no longer felt like they wanted or needed the support, or they had gotten out of the program what they had hoped to. 33 of the 65 families ended the program just through losing contact. Peer coaches tried to reach out to these families and did not get any responses, and the peer coaches went through their no contact process, which resulted in the families being ended. There were 11 of the 65 families. Actually, it was not recorded in any of the documentation and the files how they actually ended the program. Likelihood is that it fell into one of the other. Either they initiated on themselves, saying that the families chose to end services on their own, or they again lost contact. The peer coach lost contact with the families. So on the referral forms, there are 24 of the 65 referral forms had specific reasons for referral. When I looked at and analyzed the family contact, the peer coach contacts with the families, all the families that had a reason for referral actually did receive support directly related to that reason for referral. So on the referral form, there are approximately 12 specific resources that the referring clinician can mark as being a specific resource that the family would like to be connected to or would like support with. I found that in all the referral forms in the sample, there are 292 total resources checked. And when I looked at and went through all of the peer coach contacts with the families, I coded specifically for those 12 that were on the referral forms, as well as others that I saw coming up on a regular basis, and found that there are actually 390 total resources and support provided by the peer coaches. I found that a peer coach spent approximately on average 3.12 hours with a family from the time that they started and ended their time in the Family Navigator program, and with the range being from 30 minutes all the way up to 15.6 hours. I also looked at what did they do? What kind of communication did they have? What kind of activities did the peer coaches identify as doing? And found that the majority of the time with peer coaches were spent on phone calls and emails and reviewing records and researching resources for the families or communicating with the families. Some barriers and limitations to this project was that a lot of the referral forms, as well as the documentation regarding the peer coach communication with the families, were done in handwritten notes. So there's a possibility that I definitely may have misinterpreted or misunderstood or did not understand something correctly. I also noticed there was a wide range of peer coaches that documented in various amounts of detail their contacts with their families. And the data was inputted into Excel. And so the information that I presented was largely based upon the barriers and limitations of Excel, as well as my knowledge of how to use Excel. As far as ideas for next steps, certainly might recommend moving towards the electronic completion of forms. Again, that might help to limit and address the barrier of the handwritten notes. Definitely, there are certainly plenty more families that have completed their time in the Family Navigator program, so it'd be really wonderful to get the information and data from their time in the Family Navigator program included into the sample size. Definitely thought it'd be great to move towards an increase in the standardization of the form completion. I found that there was quite a bit of wide variance. Part of that also was that the forms themselves and the expectations for the documentation had also varied throughout the time in the program as well. And there's a really wonderful pre and post family survey that the Family Navigator program has, and that they attempt to have families complete. So I think it'd be really wonderful to begin to continue to strategize for how can it increase the completion of that survey, because I think that'd be some really wonderful data to have about how, from the family's perspective, about how much support that they are receiving and what their experiences of being in the Family Navigator program. So while there's much more to share, that's about all I have time for right now. So thanks for taking the time to listen.